Okay, hi everyone, welcome to the third episode of the 5710 podcast, this week with Nathan Coley.
Hi.
Nathan Coley is a contemporary Scottish artist based in Glasgow. His work is primarily concerned with the way in which architecture reflects and conditions the social environment. Also, Coley was shortlisted for the Turner Prize in 2007, and his recent individual and collaborative work has been exhibited all across the UK and Europe. So how's it going today? Nathan, have you had an okay day?
Good. I had a pleasant 3-hour train journey from Glasgow where I was meant to do some work, but I found myself gazing out of the window, which was, it kind of felt like work as well.
Yeah.
I'm a great believer in daydreaming and non-thinking. I think that's as valuable as writing emails.
When sometimes inspiration strikes.
Yeah, the answer to the problem's never when it's right in front of you. It's when you're driving back from Tesco, I think.
Yeah. Exactly. Go on a train to Aberdeen.
Yeah.
Do a little podcast and presentation.
Yeah.
So you're quite a prominent artist in Scotland, and you studied fine art in Glasgow School of Art?
Yeah, I studied Glasgow School of Art, and in particular my course was environmental art.
Oh, okay.
Which was kind of grew out of kind of 80s murals and stained glass, or kind of site-specific public art kind of discourse.
Is that kind of how you segued into architecture as a...
Yeah, I mean, my interest in architecture is kind of sideways in terms of public space, and I often find myself saying that I'm more interested in who made the building rather than what it looks like. Mm-hmm. Although I know styles and isms. Like Ruskin said, I'm interested in the building's meaning rather than its form.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what we're like architecture school is moving more towards to now. Is who did it and why did it.
And I'm as much interested in the spaces between buildings and people as the forms themselves. So that said, I mean, God, I would never become an architect. It's far too dangerous a profession.
I was supposed to say that.
That's the truth.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious about your process with each project. How does it start? Is it like you get an idea in your head and you go forward with it, or are some of them commissions, or is it kind of roughly equal? Or?
Yeah, I run a small studio in Glasgow. I have a studio assistant who's a qualified trained architect, and I have a kind of lighting engineer guy that makes a lot of the text works for me. I make work in 3 ways. One, I make sculptures. I've described myself as someone who makes objects.
Yeah.
So I make sculptures, and they exist in the museum gallery world. I have private galleries that represent me that sell works to collectors and institutions. I also exhibit in biennales and survey shows. Sometimes those works are existent or sometimes commissioned. And then the third part of my practice is I make work in public space, either integrated in with other schemes or working with architects, or more kind of standalone projects that exist in the public realm. So at best I try and balance all those three together rather than focus on one. And I guess perhaps that's why I'm here in Aberdeen today.
Yeah, exactly. Does kind of working these different mediums and kind of keep your momentum going and give you not stopping you from burning out, but kind of it gives you momentum as you go forward and keeps ideas fresh? And
I'm very conscious that a large public project, the speed and the dynamic of that is very different from me making a self-contained work that's going to go into a commercial gallery in London. There's less people to deal with in the private world, and there's more rules and regulations. I enjoy the difference.
Exactly.
I wouldn't want to always do one or the other, and so I think I'm one of the lucky ones that manages to suit myself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about speed of ideas, isn't it? You know, that there's occasions where no one has asked me to make what I make, and I'm very conscious that that's quite a luxury. But yet, given a brief and a context and a timescale and a budget, can also be
Yeah.
quite a good discipline for ideas to generate. So
Different
I
skills.
enjoy both. Yeah. I also really like working with other people. I don't think of myself as being a pluralist. I'm kind of a specialist, and so I like stealing from smart people around me.
So, like I went to Glasgow School of Arts. They've got a kind of, what's the best word, a colony in Murray, which is quite close to Aberdeenshire. And it wasn't, I went with my mum and dad because it was an open day. And they weren't, my mum and dad, because my dad had an art gallery, he was surprised when he walked in that there was no art on the walls, because they were using the creative ideas of the artists to drive business forward. Do you see this as kind of something where artists might be moving towards in the future for the profession? Or is it just kind of a little thing on the side?
I think what defines me as being different from an architect is I don't think being an artist is a profession.
Okay.
So I think there's no rules, there's no regulations, there's no certification, there's no insurance, and for good and bad. As best I can, I just try and be creative in terms of the circumstances I place myself in, and I guess arguably that's the change that's happened in our education, is that people are being taught to be creative rather than being taught how to draw a naked figure from life.
Yeah.
And arguably, economically, that's the future.
Yeah, exactly.
That there's knowledge everywhere. There's knowledge at your fingertips through Google. It's not like it used to be where your uncle knew how to do something because he had knowledge. The information's everywhere. But I think how we deal with that and what we do with it is, that's creative thinking. So perhaps your father was kind of lost between his expectations and a kind of new reality.
Yeah, I think that was it as well. It was kind of, he was expecting this fine art example, and it was more the students were helping the businesses in Murray to think creatively.
Yeah.
Some of the business leaders might have not been able to.
Taxi drivers, if a taxi driver would ask me 15 years ago, what do you do, son? And I would say, I'm an artist, and he would say, oh, well, what kind of paintings do you do?
Yeah.
But I think that's changed.
Yeah.
I think now a taxi driver would ask, what do you do for a living? As he takes me to the airport, and I'd say, I'm an artist. And one did say this, and he said, is it that fish in the tank stuff? Damien Hirst.
Yeah.
And I said, it is. And he said, oh, okay. So I think certainly in my world, the phenomenon of the Turner Prize and the boom of contemporary culture has affected people's perceptions of what artists do and blurred the boundaries of creativity.
What do you think about the Turner Prize nominees this year, because it was announced a few days ago? With like forensic architecture.
I wish them good luck.
Yeah.
Forensic architecture's interesting. Assemble are interesting. I feel a little bit uncomfortable about them stepping into my world. I think it's good for them.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's good for me though. People like me.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit like a spoken word performer winning the Booker Prize.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a different discipline. It has a different purpose, and I worry that we don't need to reinvent something that's already pretty good.
Yeah. Everything kind of has its place. They can work together, but maybe the Turner Prize is the Turner Prize. It doesn't need to be the...
Yeah. Will an artist ever win the Sterling Prize?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's fair. In your artistic career, or maybe in your uni life, is there a certain memory or moment that you it stands out to you as your favourite, or something you like go back to when you're working?
Wow. I was greatly influenced by my peer group. I was part of a generation in Glasgow School of Art that found ourselves banished from the Macintosh building and were in an annex where we all had keys and we could just come and go as we pleased. And we weren't quite the salon de refusee, but we were kind of left to do our own thing. And we had very innovative professors and teachers, but Do you know, I've been a long time out of university, and I think I've learnt more. I learnt more in the 4 years out than I did than in.
Yeah.
Sounds like an old man being patronising, but I think being out in the street and trying to find your way is the start of the journey, rather than your last year being the end.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've got a great education. I think Glasgow School of Art and the Macintosh building, you know, and we know the horrors of what's happened to that, illustrated very poignantly that there's a different world than I had imagined when I started.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 17 in the mid-80s, Glasgow was quite a kind of dark, cold, in the depths of a recession.
Yeah.
And, you know, a romantic building and a progressive institution like Glasgow School of Art opened the world to me, and so I feel very privileged to have been there. Whether that's the case now, I'm not best placed to tell.
Find someone to interview about that.
Yeah.
For the final question, kind of ask a student, an architecture student or art student might go on a grand tour to see like certain buildings or cities. So if you could suggest one place, city or maybe a piece of art or something that you would recommend a student to go to in their life on this grand tour, where would it be?
Shit. I think Siena is a good city. I think the Campo in Siena is fascinating formally. I think it's fascinating politically. You know, when it was built, instead of the church being the central building in terms of the public square, it was the town hall.
Yeah.
And I think how its ownership in terms of community and the people of Siena, in terms of the horse race, that it's culture for them and not for tourists, is a kind of a fascinating tension. So I want to kind of challenge you to find a way to go to Siena, but not as a tourist.
Yeah, try and experience it as a local would.
Yeah, but that's almost impossible.
Because they're going to know you not.
You know, the palio, the horse race, is not for tourists; it's for themselves.
Yeah.
So there you go. Marry a woman or a man from Siena and become part of the culture.
That's good advice. Put that on the tagline of the show. Okay, thank you very much, Nathan, for coming.
My pleasure.
As the second guest of the 5710 podcast. I hope you have a good evening in Aberdeen. Are you going back today?
Tomorrow I'm going to impart some knowledge, I'm going to take some ideas, and I'm going to spend the night in Aberdeen and then go back to the studio tomorrow.
Great, that sounds like a good plan. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. This is the second proper episode. Tune in next week for Mels Creuwel from Amsterdam. Thank you very much. Goodbye.